Hi, Dennis.
Hello.
So, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our 146th Reading Online Sports Economics Seminar. There's plenty going on at the moment that I can remind you about administratively in a second. We're delighted as part of our series to welcome Katrin Scharfenkamp today, who's going to present a slightly different topic on citations of sports economic publications in a moment than the advertised topic. But just to say a couple of things first, you may have seen an email or a tweet by either Carl Singleton or Raphael Flepp, who's in the audience, or Romain Gaillot on a special issue in sports economics at the Frontiers in Behavioral Economics journal. There's also a special issue that Bernd Frick and Rob Simmons and Thomas Peters are heading up, which has got a very pressing deadline. So if you're preparing for that, November the 30th is the deadline for that special issue. We're starting to plan next year as well, and I'm going to organise the third Reading Football Economics Conference in Reading on May the 7th and 8th next year, which will be just before the 18th Gijón Sport Economics Conference on the 10th and 11th of May next year. So all sorts of interesting things going on in the general area of sports economics. But that's enough from me. You've all come and tuned in for Katrin. So Katrin, please do take away the presentation that you eventually found that you could present to us today.
Yeah, so I'm very, very sorry that I cannot present the announced project. It took me all morning as the server where the project is stored did not respond. And then my office laptop also shut down. So I asked James to present another project that we already discussed at the EASY conference in August, and where we had a little workshop. And yeah, I hope you don't mind that I will sadly present the announced project then in the next season of the ROSIS seminar. So try to share my slides. So can you see them?
Yep.
Perfect.
So no, we can't see your full screen, just your.
Oh, okay. Let's try this again. Can you now see the full screen?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Oh, perfect. So the project that I want to present today is about citations of sports economics publications, and it is a joint project with Pamela Wicker and Lara Lesch. We are all hired at Bielefeld University, and this project is a part of our research grant Y-Smith that I want to introduce to you very quickly. So we luckily got a research grant from the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research, where we are analyzing the visibility and perception of female professors in sport economics, sport management, and sports sociology. And this research grant contains 4 modules, 3 research modules and 1 practical module. In the first 3 modules, we want to analyze the visibility and perception of women professors in university teaching and supervision. This would be module 1. In module 2, we are looking at the visibility and perception of women professors at scientific conferences. So for these first 2 modules, some of you might have participated in our surveys that we distributed last year. And where finally a first study was accepted for publication in Frontiers of Psychology. And today I want to show you findings on the visibility and perception of women professors through publications and citations, and presentations in online seminars like this, or workshop presentations, or paper presentations at conferences are part of our 4th module, where we also implemented a website where women researchers can register to become more visible. So if you are looking for some female expertise in different fields of sport economics. We hope to provide a longer list in the upcoming months. So this project in particular focuses on the citations of publications. And why do we think that this is important? So we think that it is important for researchers to understand the drivers of citations, as not only the number of publications are critical for your career, but also the impact that your research has overall. So if you're in any promotion or hiring negotiations, it might be helpful to know how you can improve and boost your overall research impact via citations or even the H-index. According to the publish or perish principle, gaining an academic position or being promoted strongly depends whether or not you're frequently cited. And this pressure is especially high for young scholars with limited contracts who would like to get tenured positions. And therefore we think that it is that we can provide useful knowledge to any researcher, but in particular for those who need to optimize their research impact to get a professorship or a tenured position. So what do we know from the literature? We know that Bondello and Peterson analyzed publication in the Journal of Sports Economics for a period from 2000 to 2002 using a descriptive content analysis, and they analyzed the article length, topic, and the authorship characteristics. And overall, with respect to the gender aspect, they only found a percentage of 4.7 of women authors. Anderlecht 2022 examined the JSE content for nearly 20 years, from 2000 to 2020, and he summarized the topics of articles. And what I found very funny was that he developed profiles of men researchers exclusively by distinguishing purists, specialists, switchers, and hobbyists. So all very insightful CVs, and by listing explicit names of researchers, he is categorizing different research profiles. He finally also identified sports economics publication in general economics journals, which might be useful for anybody of us who wants to submit their papers to any new outlets, as he provides a very extensive list of potential outlets. The closest study to our project is that of Gomez-Gonzalez in 2022, who analyzed the JSE content from 2000 to 2019, and they also gathered citations from Google Scholar. And they had a closer look at the most cited topics, the type of sports, authorship characteristics, including age, gender, country. And in their sample, the average share of women co-authors is 9%. Although it has increased over time. What we know from the study of Prinz and co-authors is that there's a difference between economists doing sport economic research and sports scientists doing sport economic research. They found that researchers at economic faculties publish more papers than those affiliated with sports science departments. So your affiliation might play a role, how much you publish, and maybe also according to your citations. And finally, Santos and Garcia 2011 conducted a bibliometric study of sports economics papers that were indexed in the Social Science Citation Index database from 1956 to 2009. And this was also very interesting, as they had a closer look at the number of articles over time and the country of publications, the source journals of articles, and the productivity of individual scholars. So it concludes with a list of most cited articles in sports economics. Overall, we think that we can contribute to these research papers by linking citations to or explaining citations by the author compositions. And for this presentation, we did not only focus on gender diversity, but also on cultural diversity or the number of co-authors. Yeah, so I think that we can contribute to all these papers which provide very interesting insights for the own framing or submission of papers, but yet we want to dive deeper into the correlates of citations regarding the co-author composition and answer two research questions. First, how do individual citations of co-authors affect a publication citations? And second, how does the authorship composition affect a publication citations? We do so in the research context of 4 journals. Between 2006 and 2020, we collected papers published in Contemporary Economic Policy, Economic Inquiry, International Journal of Finance, and the Journal of Sports Economics. Overall, for this subsample, we also collected publications in sport management and sport sociological journals. We end up with 938 publications, where 550 are published in JSE, 282 published in IJSF, 56 in Economic Inquiry, and 50 in Contemporary Economic Policy. For the authors, or for each publication, we collected the gender of each author, the affiliation, and respectively the country of each affiliation, the number of pages, the number in the issue, the title and the year. And in January 2023, we had a very, very extensive data collection procedure with 8 research assistants collecting the number of citations per publication from Google Scholar, as well as for each author, we collected the individual sum of citations and the individual H-index in this month, from Google Scholar or ResearchGate or any other platform providing the H-index. In the following few minutes, I want to present you our descriptive analysis, the findings of log linear regression models explaining the number of citations per publication in January 2023 by first the mean H-index of all co-authors of one publication, and then alternatively with the mean citations among co-authors. And as the third model specification, we will have a closer look at the H-index of the first and second author, and this is adding up to the discussion how important is the impact of the first author, not only as submitting author, but also is it relevant that the first author has maybe the most or critical H-index. All regressions control for the number of co-authors, the share of women. First author is a woman, number of countries among co-authors. Alternatively, I also calculated the Blau index. As we learned from the diversity literature, this is a very established measurement to account for diversity. The publication year, as recently published papers got fewer years to be cited, so we control for that, of course. Then the number of the issue, the number of pages, according to the discussion about paper length and how many pages are critical or not. And we, of course, control for the journal or the outlet where the paper was published in.
Katrin, are you happy to take questions as you go along?
Yeah.
Okay.
Daniel. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, actually, just a quick clarifying question. So when you control for the mean H-index and mean citations, those are as collected today or retroactive, like, at the time of publication? So, I mean, I guess you worry a little bit about just some mechanical reverse causality.
Okay, no, we are taking the mean H-index in January 2023, not at the moment of publication. We were not able to collect these data for past moments.
But could you recalculate it excluding the actual paper under consideration?
No, because we have not all publications of all authors. So if somebody exclusively published in these 4 journals where we collected publications from, then we could exclude these citations, but as the majority of authors is also publishing in don't know any other sport journals or economic journals, we cannot calculate that out of the H-index more or less. So we were considering that point. In fact, this is a clear limitation. We can only say in January 2023 how many citations or what was the H-index each author had by then. But we cannot tell.
For citations, you could just subtract the number of citations to that article.
Yeah, but not for publications.
Not for the H-index. The H-index is more complicated, but for citations, you could just exclude the number of citations. So the unit of observation is article I, and I think you want to control for citations, excluding citations to article I.
We explained the citations of each article in January 2023.
Okay.
This is our dependent variable that we want to explain.
Right, and so I think it would be better if when you calculate the mean citations for all authors, it should be the mean citations to all other articles, excluding the article in question.
Yeah. So yeah, I have to check whether we can separate these, but I'm worried that this won't work out. But this is a good point, clearly for our limitations. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, then I will go on. Second. Okay. So, these are the summary statistics. So on average, a paper was cited 34 times, with at the minimum 1 citation and at maximum 245 citations. The mean H-index of co-authors is 16, ranging from 0 to 197. I will give you some more details on the following slides. And the mean citations are 2,247, ranging from 1 to 26,500. The average H-index of the first author is 16.6 and 16.3 for the second author. The number of co-authors ranges from 1 to 7 with a mean of 2. And the share of women co-authors is on average 9.2%, and only 8% of publications we find a woman to be the first author. Cultural diversity is not that large. We find 1 to 4 different countries per author team, but in the mean we end up with 1.1, and the according Blau index is 0.07. As I already mentioned, the year varies between 2006 and 2020. Papers are on average 17 pages long, but yeah, at maximum they got 49 pages. So let's have a first look at the distribution of citations of articles by journal. So in the upper right bar graph, you see the citations of publications in contemporary economic policy. And here you see some ups and downs, more or less. The most citations are evident in 2009, with nearly 100 per paper or per publication. But overall, they seem a bit higher than citations of papers in IJSF in from 2006 to 2009. What we can also see, if you compare all these 4 bar graphs, that you can reach the most citations by publishing in Journal of Sports Economics. Yeah, although we made these bar graphs to detect any similar developments of or systematic developments of citations across all 4 journals, but yeah, didn't find anything significant. So yeah, I thought this might give you a good first impression on what we are talking about. So I'll just move on to the next slide. Yeah. Here you can see the distribution of H-index and citations per author. On the first lines, you can see that the first author has on average an H-index of 16.6, the second one 16.3, and the third one 16.9. And we had a closer look into the data and saw that John Loomis has got the maximum H-index of being first author, and he's doing research in agricultural and resource economics. The maximum H-index of the second co-author is given by Robert R. Dunn, who is doing research in applied ecology. And then we have the H-index for the third author, and this is at maximum 123 by John A. List. What we can also see that these very few papers, with more than 4 co-authors, those who have very big researches on their papers, and we see that there the mean H-index is much higher than for the first to fourth co-author. Accordingly, we see for citations that it ranges between 2,211 for the first author, 2,139 for the second, and 2,600 or 2,700 for the third and fourth author. Looking at gender diversity in the co-author teams, we see that in some journals we don't have any women as authors in the final publications. These are for contemporary economic policy, especially in the years 2008 to 2011, 2013, and 2019. We have no sports economic publication authored by a woman, and the same is true for economic inquiry for 2006, 2007, 11, 12, 14, 17, 18, and 2020. Compared to the IJSF and JZ, we also see that there's an increase in the share of women co-authors until 2015-16 for IJSF, and then a decrease, maybe also caused by COVID and the effects on of COVID on childcare and mothers, reducing their job hours, etc. And for JSE, we see that especially in 2020, we have a very strong decrease in the share of women co-authors. So these are our log linear regressions. Let me remind you on the model specifications first. In the first 2 columns, I will present you the findings where we use the mean H-index of co-authors as an explanatory variable to explain the publications of an article in January 2023. And as explanatory variables, we use the share of women co-authors, and in column 1A and 1B, we use different measures for cultural diversity. In 1A and respectively 2A and 3A, we use the number of different countries as a measure for cultural diversity per author team. And alternatively, in the B specifications of the models, these are called Blau index. We use the Blau index for the country diversity among co-authors. Yeah, in models 1A and 1B, we are explaining the citations per publications with the mean h-index of co-authors and the square term. In models 2A and 2B, we are varying the explanatory variable in a way that we use the mean citations of co-authors and the square term. And finally, in specification 3A and 3B, we are using the h-index of the first and second author and the respective square terms. So what do we find? We find an inverse U-shaped effect of the mean h-index of co-authors in any model specification, 1A and 1B, and respectively also for the mean citation measurement. And the critical mean h-index is 120, and the critical mean citations are 12,000 per author until January 2023. When we are looking at the share of women co-authors, we find a robust positive and linear effect. So the more women co-authors in a team, the more a paper got cited until January 2023. But, and this was very interesting, also in other regression specifications that I ran, you couldn't find any significant effect of the number of co-authors. So yeah, so it doesn't significantly matter with how many people you're writing your paper, but in fact, the gender composition and the cultural diversity has a significant positive effect on the citations of your paper. Yeah. So to sum up, and to answer our research questions, how do individual citations of co-authors affect a publication's citations? Well, first of all, up to a critical h-index of 120 or a critical mean of 12,000 citations, we can say that the higher the impact of co-authors, the more citations per article, and the higher the h-index of the first and second author, the more citations per article. So it does matter, who's leading the paper and finally submitting it. Regarding the second research question, so how does the authorship composition affect a publication citations? We find that the number of co-authors had no robust and significant effect on the citations per article, but the higher the share of women co-authors and the higher the number of different countries among co-authors, the higher are the citations per article. So what are the implications? National and gender diversity are boosting your overall research impact or the citations of your publications. So this is worth to consider. And yeah, we are the first study who tries to connect the impact and the research impact of authors in the sports economic context with citations of publications, and also giving some new insights on the socio-demographic characteristics and the composition of authors on this research impact measurement. So what are the limitations? Clearly, as I learned from this comment now, that we have to check whether we can exclude, but I'm really worried that we cannot do so, the citations of the analyzed paper from the overall citations per author. Then we are limited to these 4 leading journals publishing sports economic research. So if there are other very impactful publications in other journals, we did not capture that. And the data are cross-sectional, therefore we cannot claim any causality. And we want to refine our findings in the upcoming week, actually. This is on my to-do list after today's presentation. We coded different research topics following previously literature and the hypothesis that some topics, like financial topics, are more frequently cited than others. So we will re-estimate our regression models and include them as controls, and we'll see how this will turns out, maybe also in interaction with the gender composition variable. So thank you for your patience. And finally, I want to hint you on our website. This is wisemiss.org. We also have a Twitter, or now X, account where we retweet and promote not only our project's findings, but also the research of women sport economists and women sport management researchers. We have a project email address, and if you want to reach me personally, you can do that via katrin.scharfenkamp@uni-bielefeld.de. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Katrin. I'm going to find there's the react button and give you a Teams round of applause. So thank you very much for a really interesting talk. We've got plenty of time for questions and comments. One thing I will say, just on, I think, that question of splitting off the citations for the paper from the person. I don't know how you necessarily stored what you took from Google Scholar, but I think if you've got the page saved, you ought to be able to get the count of citations for the paper each year. So I think you could then show that from the number of citations per author per year. I've got a little bit of experience trying to scrape Google Scholar, so perhaps we can perhaps have a chat.
This would be helpful.
But so I think that ought to be feasible. And I can't remember exactly how the H index is calculated. And I don't know whether you could recalculate it for an earlier point in time. Those are just my comments. I'd much rather open it for anyone's, the audience for questions and comments. So if anyone does have any questions and comments, please do raise your hand and ask them to Katrin. Stefan's got his hand up.
Hi, Katrin. It's a very interesting topic. And one of the things I think many of us are familiar with the REPEC indices that get published monthly, which have a lot of personal individual statistics, well, dozens of them. And one of some of the most interesting ones there are the network effects, and I would strongly suspect that there are pretty powerful network effects going on within sports economics and sport management more generally. So I don't know how easy it would be to do that. You presumably would be able to calculate, if you have all the citations for each paper, then there should be some possibility of calculating some kind of network interactions, which then might, I think that would probably have a lot of power in explaining some of the variation that you're seeing.
Thank you very much. In fact, this is something that I wanted to do in January. I also already had a look into some network analysis papers, and in fact, it's very complicated for this publication issue, but yeah, I learned from the gender differences in network access literature for corporate firms that women have less powerful networks, and this might also be a point according to the citations. So yeah, in fact, I also thought of that. So thank you for this input. I will definitely yeah, then look it up and try to find a way how to measure it in a useful way for our study.
Thanks, Stefan. Any more questions and comments? Arno.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for a very interesting presentation. I would maybe follow up what already have been said about the web scraping. So maybe that's for a new project. My guess is there is quite some potential. I've not scraped Google Scholar myself, but I of course know the web page, and there might be some potential. That's probably for that ongoing project too late, but maybe if you have some ideas for the future, that could be something to look into. Maybe I also would like to follow up, I think, a little bit what kind of Stefan just kind of reminded me of, and that's a little bit, and maybe it's hard to code, but I think, as you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we have probably these two main sides. We have the people coming more from an economics background as a parent discipline, and those who come from a sports science, sports management background. So my guess is that someone who is kind of a little bit kind of interacting between sports economics and sports management might have higher citations, because my guess is that the sports management journals have higher citations than someone who kind of only kind of focus on more pure economic based topics and more going for those kind of traditional, also maybe general interest journals. I don't know whether this is easy to code. Is someone kind of a pure whatever economics parent discipline researcher? Is there kind of this in between the two? But just as a food for thought.
Maybe we can capture that by controlling for publications for previous publications in one of the 4 journals, and then match this with the overall citations more or less. Then we will see. Yeah, I will. Yeah, this is a good point. Thank you.
More questions and comments? Your finding of the positive impact of the share of female authors to the citations is quite a striking finding. I mean, I've got no prior about what that should be, but I don't know whether you had any explanation for the finding that you thought about.
My explanation so far is very preliminary, so I want to check this out next week. But I guess that women are interested in different topics than men. And we found for economic bibliometric analyses that men are publishing more in financial topics, while women are more publishing in behavioral topics or HRM topics, marketing topics, And maybe, this could be an explanation that they are given, on the one hand, if this would be a so to say, stereotypical male topic like finance, maybe women give a different perspective or input to the research idea on framing the study, so that teamwork maybe leads to more efficient results. This could be so that the paper just can show new perspectives, and or if we do not find that women also contributing to male stereotypical topics, but only do research in this female stereotypical topics. It could be just maybe the readers are more open to these scarce literature as we thought. I don't know. So, but this is why I think it is important to have a closer look into the topics of the papers, and maybe to disentangle there in a way. If it is the black box of teamwork that we cannot open, or if it is really maybe is kind of sorting into topics. But maybe there are other guesses on what it could be, so from own experiences or whatsoever.
Yeah, so I've got no prior myself about why it might be, but it's certainly an intriguing finding. Any other questions and comments? I guess that appears to be a no. So in which case, thank you, Katrin. Some really interesting work and interesting data set and some interesting findings. And we look forward to updates when you're able to work on this over the next couple of months. So thanks again, Katrin. Thank you, everyone. Just before I go, there was one additional event I didn't mention earlier on, which is that Dennis Coates, who's a regular, many folk will know Dennis, is organising a conference at University of Maryland, Baltimore County, also next spring. A little bit earlier, March the 28th, 29th and 30th are the dates for that conference. And he's planning to have a submission deadline of around January the 10th. So if you have something at the ready and you are free in March and interested in Dennis's conference, do look out for more information as it becomes available for that. Next week we meet on November the 24th, and Bernd Frick will be presenting academic performance and salary expectations of couch potatoes, recreational and elite athletes, evidence from Germany. So thanks very much, everyone, once again. Have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, James.
Cheers, Dennis.
Thanks.